The sun cast long shadows across the vast expanse of the desert. The air was thick with the heat of the day, shimmering in waves that distorted the landscape like a mirage. In this desolate wasteland, a group of adventurers had gathered, drawn together by a common goal and a shared thirst for glory. They were a motley crew, a mix of hardened mercenaries, battle-scarred soldiers, and reckless thrill-seekers. Some sought fortune, others revenge, but all were united in their determination to find the legendary colossus that was said to roam these sands. The legend of the giant robot had been passed down through generations, a remnant of the great war between mankind and the machines. It was said to stand over 200 feet tall, a rusted behemoth with massive arms and 3 legs, a relic of a time when technology had advanced far beyond the wildest dreams of those who now scraped out a meager existence in the ruins of the old world. For years, the legend had been dismissed as nothing more than a myth, a story told to frighten children and inspire hope in the hearts of the desperate. But recent sightings had reignited interest in the tale, and now a group of daring adventurers had gathered to see for themselves if the colossus was real. Among them was Jax, a grizzled mercenary with a scar running down his left cheek, a memento from a close encounter with a bot during a previous mission. He had seen his share of battles, but the prospect of taking on a giant robot was a challenge he couldn't resist. Beside him stood Nyx, a soldier with a haunted look in her eyes. She had lost everything to the machines, her family, her home, and her future. Now, she sought only revenge, a chance to strike back at the enemy that had taken everything from her. There were others too, a mix of the desperate and the daring. Zeke, a young man with a cocky grin and a quick trigger finger. Arya, a thrill-seeker with a love for danger and a disregard for her own safety. And Raven, a mysterious figure with a past shrouded in secrecy and a reputation for getting the job done, no matter the cost. Together they had pooled their resources and their knowledge, gathering the supplies and equipment they would need to survive in the harsh desert environment. They had studied the rumors and the stories, piecing together a rough map of the Colossus's supposed location. Now, as they set out into the wasteland, they knew that they were embarking on a journey that could very well be their last. The desert was a cruel and unforgiving place, a vast expanse of sand and rock that stretched out before them like a sea of desolation. But they were determined to see it through, to find the Colossus, and to claim the glory that would come with its defeat. They knew that the risks were great, that many had tried and failed before them, but they were willing to stake their lives on the chance for fame and fortune. As they walked, the sun beating down on their backs and the sand crunching beneath their feet, they talked and joked, trying to keep their spirits up in the face of the daunting task ahead. They spoke of their past exploits and their hopes for the future, of the riches they would claim and the stories they would tell. But beneath the bravado and the laughter, there was an undercurrent of tension, a sense of unease that grew with every step they took deeper into the wasteland. They knew that they were venturing into the unknown, into a land where the old rules no longer applied, and where the machines still held sway. And so they pressed on, driven by a mix of courage and desperation, determined to see their mission through to the end, no matter the cost. For in this world there was no room for weakness or hesitation, no place for those who were not willing to fight for their very survival. The Colossus awaited them, a rusted giant slumbering beneath the sands, a relic of a forgotten age. And the adventurers knew that they would need all their skill and all their courage to face the challenges that lay ahead, to emerge victorious from the wastes and to claim their place in the annals of legend. The sun had reached its zenith, casting a blinding glare across the desert sands, when the first signs of the Colossus' presence appeared. At first it was nothing more than a series of massive footprints, each one larger than a man, pressed deep into the sand. But as the adventurers followed the trail, they began to notice other signs of the robot's passage. Shattered boulders and twisted scraps of metal littered the landscape, as if something of immense size and power had carelessly brushed them aside. The air was thick with the scent of rust and decay, a testament to the age and deterioration of the mechanical behemoth. As they pressed on, the sense of unease that had been growing among the group reached a fever pitch. They knew that they were drawing closer to their target, but the reality of what they were about to face was beginning to sink in. Jax and Nyx argued about the best approach, while Zeke and Arya traded nervous jokes to mask their fear. And then, without warning, they saw it. Rising up from the sands like a mountain of rusted metal, the Colossus loomed before them. It was even larger than the stories had suggested, its massive frame dwarfing anything they had ever seen before. For a moment, the adventurers could only stare in awe and terror at the sight before them. The robot was a relic of a bygone age, a testament to the ingenuity and hubris of a civilization that had long since crumbled to dust. Its metal skin was pitted and scarred, its joints creaking with the weight of centuries, but there was no mistaking the power and majesty of its form. As they watched, the Colossus took a step forward, its three massive legs churning up the sand in great clouds of dust. The ground shook with each footfall, and the adventurers could feel the vibrations in their very bones. Raven was the first to snap out of the trance, barking orders to the others to take up positions and prepare for battle. They had come too far to turn back now, and they knew that their only chance of survival lay in bringing the giant down. With a roar of defiance, they opened fire, their weapons spitting hot lead and searing energy at the rusted behemoth. The Colossus seemed to shrug off the barrage, its metal skin absorbing the impacts with barely a scratch. But the adventurers were not deterred. They had come prepared for this moment, armed with heavy weapons and explosives scavenged from the ruins of the old world. They coordinated their attacks, seeking out weak points in the robot's armor and targeting its joints and sensors. The battle raged for what seemed like hours, the desert sun beating down on the combatants with merciless intensity. The Colossus lumbered forward, its massive arms swinging in great arcs that sent the adventurers scattering for cover. One by one, the group began to fall. Arya was crushed beneath a massive foot, her body broken and lifeless in the sand. Zeke was caught in the grip of a giant hand, his screams cut short as he was squeezed into a bloody pulp. Jax and Nyx fought side by side, their weapons blazing as they sought to bring the monster down. But even their skill and determination were not enough. Jax was hit by a falling piece of debris, his skull crushed by the impact. Nyx was caught in the blast of an explosion, her body torn apart by the shrapnel. In the end, only Raven remained, battered and bleeding, but still standing. With a final, desperate effort, she launched herself at the Colossus, a satchel charge clutched in her hand. She clambered up the robot's leg, dodging its attempts to shake her off, until she reached its chest. With a savage cry, she jammed the charge into a gap in the robot's armor and leaped clear, just as the explosion ripped through the Colossus's body. The giant staggered, its metal frame shuddering under the impact, before finally toppling to the ground with a deafening crash. Raven lay in the sand, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she stared up at the sky. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. Her companions were gone, their bodies scattered across the desert like so much broken machinery. But even in her grief and pain, Raven knew that their sacrifice had not been in vain. They had struck a blow against the machines, had proven that even the mightiest of the enemy could be brought down by the courage and determination of the human spirit. And so, with a final weary push, Raven hauled herself to her feet and began the long, lonely trek back to civilization, the memory of her fallen comrades etched forever in her heart. The sun was setting over the desert, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, as Raven limped her way back towards the fallen Colossus. Her body ached with every step, the wounds she had sustained in the battle throbbing with a dull, persistent pain. But she pushed on, driven by a sense of duty to her fallen comrades and a need to see for herself that the monster was truly dead. As she approached the site of the battle, the scale of the destruction became apparent. The Colossus lay on its side, its massive frame half buried in the sand. Its metal skin was blackened and scorched, the once mighty limbs twisted and broken. The ground around it was littered with debris, the shattered remnants of the robot's armor and the broken bodies of those who had fought and died to bring it down. Raven picked her way through the wreckage, her eyes searching for any sign of life. But there was none to be found. Her companions were gone, their lives snuffed out in an instant by the Colossus's relentless onslaught. She paused for a moment beside each of their bodies, offering a silent prayer to whatever gods might still be listening in this bleak and broken world. As she reached the Colossus itself, Raven could not help but feel a sense of awe and reverence. Even in death, The machine was a marvel of engineering and design, a testament to the ingenuity and skill of its creators. She ran her hand along its rusted surface, marveling at the intricate patterns and designs that had been etched into its metal skin. But there was no time for sentiment. Raven knew that she had a job to do. With grim determination, she set to work, scouring the wreckage for anything of value that could be salvaged. She pried loose plates of armor and dug through piles of twisted metal, searching for components and materials that could be put to use back in the settlements. As she worked, Raven's mind wandered back to the events of the day. She thought of her companions, of the bravery and sacrifice they had shown in the face of overwhelming odds. She thought of the Colossus itself, of the almost mythical status it had attained in the stories and legends of the wasteland. And she thought of the future, of the long road ahead that still lay before her. The Colossus was dead, but the war against the machines was far from over. There would be other battles to fight, other monsters to slay. And Raven knew that she would be there to meet them head-on, armed with the lessons she had learned and the memories of those who had fallen. As the last of the light faded from the sky, Raven gathered up her scavenged treasures and prepared to make the long journey back to civilization. She paused for a moment beside the fallen Colossus, her hand resting on its rusted surface in a gesture of respect and farewell. Then, with a final glance at the wreckage that surrounded her, Raven turned and walked away, her footsteps leaving a trail in the sand that would soon be erased by the winds of the wasteland. She knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, that there would be many more challenges and obstacles to overcome. But she also knew that she was not alone. The memory of her fallen comrades walked with her, their courage and sacrifice a constant reminder of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. And in that knowledge, Raven found the strength to carry on, to face whatever trials and tribulations the wasteland might throw her way. For in this bleak and unforgiving world, hope was a precious commodity, a flame that had to be nurtured and protected at all costs. And as Raven made her way back towards the settlements, she carried that flame with her, a beacon of light in the darkness that would guide her onwards, towards a future that was yet unwritten. The Colossus was dead, but the struggle continued, and Raven knew that she would be there to see it through, to the bitter end and beyond, until the day when the machines were finally vanquished and humanity could once again claim its rightful place as the masters of its own destiny. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like. I'll see you in our next video.